What's up everybody, Citizen Kimberly here. Welcome back to the channel, and now it's time for an episode of Netflix and Chop, where we slice open and dissect the featured film. Today's feature is a film named Take Me to the River. It's a 2016 independent drama directed and written by Mark Sobel. So the film starts off and there's a family in a car and they're driving. Already the mood is set, there's doom and impending gloom coming with this family trip. It is not an anticipated trip. We have the son and the mother and the father. The son is the main focus of the film. He's a teenager and he's serving as everything from Dorothy, from the Golden Girls, to the typical hipster millennial. It's a good combination, and I appreciated his character's demeanor. The mother and the father, they're a little bit apathetic about the trip, but they're going to go forward with it. And the teenage son is expressing his desire to come out to his family. The mother's kind of like, no, we're not going to do that. We're just going to grin and bear it. It's going to be a good trip. We're just going to get through it. That's that. The teenager has zoned out. He's put on his earplugs. He's listening to his music. He's not excited. We get it. They are driving back to the mother's family, which is in Nebraska. So the dynamics are completely different, being big city Californians versus a small town Nebraska. So we have the family and they're going to this huge picnic, and it's just a big shebang. You can tell that the teenager doesn't want to be there, but he's anticipating kind of letting go of this big secret about who he is. That's the vibe that we're getting. So we get there and the young man is surrounded by his cousins that are made up mostly of young girls. They are completely intrigued by him because he is very artsy, he's very creative, he's drawing pictures for them. Everybody just seems particularly intrigued. But the youngest cousin, Molly, is mainly the focus of the film. We kind of get introduced to the conflict of the entire movie through this little girl, Molly, who is squeamishly and uncomfortably flirty with her cousin. But you can kind of tell that there's an air of, I just don't feel, the viewer will feel uncomfortable with this. We've already established the dynamics that the young man is completely different. There are two young male cousins who are, teasing him, and of course they're like letting it be known that there is a complete difference. But the conflict arises when the cousin Molly wants to go to this barn, but she desperately wants to go with the young man, who is the main character. After begging and pleading with her father, they wind up going to the barn. Now, increasingly through viewing the film, it becomes extremely awkward. And I'm talking awkward as in, I don't see how this young man at one point couldn't see that there's a space madness vibe going on. It almost seems like the little girl in an ambiguous, creepy, eerie kind of way is trying to lure him into, I'll leave it at that. An uncomfortable trap is being set for this young man, and he can't see it at this point. So there's eggs in a nest, and Molly wants to go up on the hair, and the young man is like, no, let's not do this. But then she says, well, let's chicken fight, and then I can stand on your shoulders and get this nest. Then we flash back to the scene, and everybody's still having their picnic, and Molly, the young girl, runs out, and she's screaming and crying, and there's a splash of blood on her dress. And there's the conflict of the film. I'm going to stop with the plot summary and kind of go into my thoughts on the film. At first thoughts, I would think that the film is one of those, if you were in space and you were looking down at the earth and you pointed at it and that was your destination, and this is the story that you would get. Kind of like what this film is. Or, if you were to open a phone book and just kind of hit a name, then you would get to see what their life is like. It's like that. It definitely is a mood piece to where it creates the most squeamish and uncomfortable of feelings. I found myself biting my nails and almost on the verge of throwing up. It was so disturbing. But I do think that that's the film's point, to get you utterly disturbed and unnerved, almost in a suspenseful like way, but so uncomfortable that you want to crawl out of your skin and perhaps die like an earthworm. The characters in the movie, the actors did a very good job of kind of portraying someone's real life. You know how when you get into a family and it's uncomfortable, you feel like you might not fit in, you don't fit in, and everybody else around you is kind of doing their collective thing, and you know that things are off, and you know that there's some secrets. This is what this film provokes for me to think that this could be based off of a real story. So if I were to see at the end of the movie based off true events, I would believe it. And that is the beauty of the film, and that is why it's so watchable, even though it's so uncomfortable that it might be considered unwatchable. So really, in my opinion, it would be up to the viewer to... Personally, I enjoyed this film. It's definitely my cup of tea, and if you're into films that make you feel uncomfortable and make it so realistic, that definitely dedicated to making the actors and the setup very relatable and realistic, then you will definitely enjoy Take Me to the River. I will say that there are parts of the film that kind of don't make sense as to the characters, where they don't line up with the things that they are aware of. Sometimes people actually act like that. So if you're into it, definitely give it a watch. I give it an A++. And until the next time, see you all later. I hope you enjoyed this video, and don't forget to have fun.